All right. The MLS offseason is in full swing. A lot of players on the move, a lot of teams making moves. It feels like it's almost impossible to keep up with everything going on. And yet, here are five teams that I think need to have an amazing offseason or incredible offseason to keep things going or to turn their fortunes around. And I'll be curious to see if you guys agree with this list, but I thought about this a lot, and I think that these are the five teams that need to have a big offseason in MLS in 2026. Okay, starting off at number five, we have Atlanta United. Now, Atlanta United was a team that came into Major League Soccer swinging. This was a team that was good from the jump, and it was because of one man, Tata Martino. Now, Tata Martino departed in 2019 or right before the 2019 season started, and he went and took the Mexican national team job. They hired Frank de Boer, and it's been pretty much a mess ever since. They haven't really found the same success since he left 7 years ago. Hard to believe it's been that long. Well, here we go. It's not a dream. He's back, right? He's been hired to clean up the mess that has been left since he left, right? And last offseason, Atlanta United did what you would want. They signed a lot of big name players or spent a lot of money on players that they felt pretty good about. They signed Emmanuel Latte Lot. They spent $20 million on him, but it had incentives to reach up to $30 million. They brought back Miguel Almiron from Newcastle, which is a fan favorite, a guy that people had missed since he left in 2018. And some people thought maybe if they brought someone like him back, that could help their fortunes and maybe turn this thing around. Maybe it wasn't all Tata Martino. Maybe it was some of the players as well. Well, they brought him back too, and they finished 14th in the Eastern Conference. Despite that investment, probably close to $35 million between the two players. Then the summer before that, they signed Miranchuk for like 12 million euros. I mean, so they've got almost 50 million plus invested in this roster with their three DPs, and they had 14th place in the Eastern Conference to show on it. So it's been very disappointing for Atlanta United, not just last season, but in general since Tata Martino had left in 2018. So this is important juncture in the franchises, the club's history, and what they're going to do. They have all these talented pieces, but they're more like misfits, right? And I'm going to be curious to see who all. Hey, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Guys, we are getting closer and closer to 12,000 subscribers. And with your help, I know we will reach that goal. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Now, back to the video. Tata Martino brings in and who he gets out. Now, we saw Miguel Miron do very well under Tata Martino, as well as Joseph Martinez when they played. Now, Joseph Martinez is not coming back, but we saw what he's been able to do with this team. He built this roster in 2017, 2018, and he won an MLS Cup doing it. So we'll see what he does. Are they going to get rid of a DP to open one up for him? We also saw with Inter Miami that the guy still has it when it comes to recruiting talent and an eye for scouting. Diego Gomez was an unknown commodity in Paraguay. Not many people knew who he was. Comes to Inter Miami, plays a season and a half, ends up getting sold for $15 million. So that was a Tata Martino guy. Tata Martino still has that eye for talent, and I think he's motivated, especially with the way things ended at Inter Miami. He wants to prove that he's not washed and he still has a lot to offer. And they got Arthur blank checks with the team. So if they do have to buy someone out, they have to do something. They got a couple U22 spots. And that's something that Tata Martino has been good at identifying, I think. So they've got some flexibility. And if you wanted a guy with MLS experience, who's won an MLS Cup, good scout, and he can rebuild your team, Tata Martino checks all those boxes. He's like the Argentine Bruce Arena for MLS, I think. Like he's right up there, in my opinion. So we'll see what he can do. Atlanta United need to have a big offseason, and they need to do things right if they want to get this thing turned around. At number four, we have LAFC. Now, LAFC really were struggling up until they signed Son Heung-min last summer or this past summer. It was pretty much non-existent, their success. They weren't doing what we saw down the stretch, right? The attack definitely wasn't as good. They signed Son Heung-min for a record fee in MLS, and it changed everything. Now, they also lost their head coach and Steve Cherundolo, what I think is a net positive, right? I don't think he's that good, but they did a mistake by hiring Mark Dos Santos, an assistant. They promoted a Dolo disciple. Not a good move, in my opinion. And they also let go of several players. One player that I was very high on was Morin. I thought Morin was had a bright ceiling, the Irish international. I thought that if he got a chance to play, he could have really fit in with this team and he would have maybe been worth the U22 spot, but they didn't play him. Dolo didn't, I guess, like what he had to offer. When the games he saw, he didn't like he didn't like it, and so they declined to pick up his purchase option. He goes back to the UK and they're looking for another playmaker, someone who can help in the midfield. And that was one of the biggest issues with them in this season. They had nobody who could create from the midfield to set up their attackers in Denis Bouanga and Son Heung-min. And they look like they're committing to this model where you can choose 3 DPs and 3 U22s or 4 U22s and 2 DPs plus $2 million in GAM. I know the MLS rules are confusing and it doesn't make a lot of sense. A lot of people don't understand them, right? I don't even know if some of these general managers and some of these technical directors understand them, but they're choosing a path to give them a little bit more resources, but it also handcuffs them of not being able to sign a third DP. I think that's a mistake. I'm questioning what John Thorrington's doing at this point. I don't know if he has lost the Midas touch. I don't know what's going on with him, but this is a big offseason too because it's a coaching change. MLS record transfer fee player Son Heung-min. They're expecting to win MLS Cup in 2025 or 2026. They're going to be playing in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They're already off to a bad start with how they're talking about building this team. John Thornton, I think, recently said that they didn't really need to add anything. They just need to tighten things up. So that's a red flag. Every team needs to get better every year. They need to sign other players. You can't keep things the same and expect it to get better. You have to improve the roster on a year-to-year basis. That's a red flag, but they got to have a big season. Mark Dos Santos got a lot of pressure on him. When you sign the biggest transfer fee in MLS history, there's an expectation for you guys to deliver on these expectations or these promises of becoming a contender, right? They won an MLS Cup in 2022. They haven't won one since then. They lost in 2023. It's been disappointing. So we'll see what they do. This is a big offseason for them. They have a lot of issues. They need to get some creativity in the midfield, and they definitely need to get someone off the bench or someone else who can score besides Denis Bouanga and Son Heung-min because it felt like they were the only two players who could do it at a lot of times in the season. Number 3 is the New York Red Bulls. New York Red Bulls were the runner-up in the 2024 MLS Cup. Look, honestly, one of the best stories of 2024, seeing how they were able to be the 8th or ninth seed in the MLS Cup playoffs and then make it to the MLS Cup final to play the LA Galaxy. Incredible. You kind of felt like maybe the Red Bulls are turning a corner because they had signed Emil Forsberg from Leipzig that earlier that offseason, and it looked like they were going to start investing in their team once again. But in 2025, they regressed drastically. They went from MLS Cup runner up to 10th place in the Eastern Conference. So it wasn't a good season, and Sandro Schwartz, their manager, had gotten fired because of his shortcomings. So they spent big in 2024. There were rumors they were going to spend big in 2025. It never came. They signed Chopa Moteng, who is a 37-year-old striker, back up from Bayern Munich. He wasn't bad, but you're not going to win because of him. You're not going to, and you got to surround your key piece like Emil Forsberg with more talent. And they just traded away Lewis Morgan, who is kind of injury prone at this point. They trade him to San Diego FC. I don't really know what their plan is, but they have to do more than what they did last offseason. They have to spend some money. They have to be able to get these key players who can take over games other than Emil Forsberg. I just don't know. I haven't heard any rumors of who they're going to sign. Now they were going to sign Timo Werner was a option because of obviously the Red Bull connection, but that's not going to fix their problems. I think it might actually make them worse. Timo Werner, hasn't really done much in a couple years, and they need a guy who's proven, who's young, who is reliable. I just don't think that describes Timo Werner. They also hired Michael Bradley. Michael Bradley played for the Red Bulls the earlier junction in his career. He played for Toronto FC, obviously, for 8 seasons, I think, maybe 9 seasons. He's a TFC legend with Toronto, and his dad's obviously Michael Bradley, coached the Red Bulls before. I think this is a good hire. I'm very excited to see what Michael Bradley can do. He's 8 years old. I think he has a high upside. I think he's going to might be the USMNT coach one day. So you have a guy who knows the league very well, very smart player, probably will get this team to want to and need to invest in its roster. I think that that is probably the most encouraging thing they've done this offseason. So we'll see what they do, but they've got to have a big offseason. New York Red Bulls have no excuse of not making the MLS Cup playoffs on a year-to-year basis. I mean, this is a Red Bull-owned team. They've got the money. They need to start spending it. They need to start investing in their market. If they don't, they need to just sell the team. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what the New York Red Bulls do. I have them at number 3. Number 2, now, this might be some people's number 1 because it was a pretty bad, catastrophic failure for this team, especially for what they did in 2024. I have the LA Galaxy. Now, the LA Galaxy won MLS Cup in 2024, and you know what it was? It was because they had an incredible offseason in 2024, thanks to their general manager, Will Kuntz. Now, Will Kuntz isn't a very popular guy amongst Galaxy fans at this point. At least I don't think he is. And I know Greg Vanney isn't either. But when you look at the 2024 season, they signed Joseph Paintsil, they signed Gabriel Peck. You know, they had Ricky Puig, who was healthy through the 2024 season until the second to last game before the MLS Cup final. They had Dejan Joveljic. They lost some guys. They lost Joveljic because of roster rule regulations. They lost Puig because he was recovering from his ACL tear. They had a lot of bad luck in 2025, but I don't want to put it all on injuries and roster rules because even with that being said, this team was definitely talented enough to make the playoffs. Now, some people might think that they're not, but that's just absurd. I mean, they've got more talent in Gabriel Peck and Paintsil than most teams in the league have. Like those would be the best players on several teams in the league. So would Ricky Puig. They have 3 players on their team who would be the best player on most teams in MLS. So that obviously means you have a culmination of talent, right? They had 30 points in 2025, 14th in the Western Conference, worst season in the club history. That's inexcusable. This is the LA Galaxy. They're the team that has 6 MLS Cups. 6. They've got the most of any team in Major League Soccer history. There's no excuse why they should drop from MLS Cup champs to not even making the playoffs, 14th in the Western Conference. I think that has a lot to do with Greg Vanney. I think Greg Vanney's a very good manager at this point in MLS. Has he had a lot of success? Yes. Is he the right coach for this team? I don't think so. Every season he's coached, he misses the playoffs every other season. He missed it in 2021. He missed it in 2023. He missed it in 2025. He's only made the playoffs 2 times in his tenure with the LA Galaxy. And I think that's a huge red flag, right? I just don't think he's the guy. And so they need to add some stuff. They need to get a striker. Nascimento, who they had on loan from Botafogo, is not the answer. U22, he's not it. They just traded for Jacob Glesnes, which they desperately need some center back health. Maya Yoshida was clearly a mistake to re-sign him last year at 37 years old. He'll be 38 this year. They need a lot of help and they need some depth. Don't re-sign Diego Fagundes. He's not worth the $1+ million salary. We'll see what Will Kuntz has in store, but there's a lot of pressure on this team. This is, people's jobs are at stake at this point. If Greg Vanney was a manager at any team in Europe, he would have been fired long time ago. Long time ago. But this guy's got the longest leash I've ever seen. I mean, he's damn near off the leash at this point. I mean, he has more lives than a cat at this point, right? So they have a lot of pressure on them this year, though. They have a lot of pressure, and they're in the CONCACAF Champions Cup because of their run in Leagues Cup. So they're going to have to perform. They're going to have to deliver this year. They have a huge offseason ahead of them, and they're going to have to do more than just signing or trading for Jacob Glesnes. Now, number 1, I think some of you guys are probably going to disagree with this. You're going to say, Will, what the hell are you talking about? Number 1 is this team? What? I have Inter Miami. And I know you're going to think, they just won MLS Cup. Why do they have to have a big offseason? Well, I'll tell you why they need to have a big offseason. They won MLS Cup. They've won Supporters Shield. But what's the one thing they haven't won? The CONCACAF Champions Cup. And in order to do that, you got to have a pretty good offseason because you're going to have a lot of talent to beat some of these Liga MX giants. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. And so far, they're doing it. They've signed Sergio Reguilon. They've signed Dane St. Clair, allegedly. I don't know. Guido Herrera is still in the fold. We'll have to see what happens. I still think Dane St. Clair is going to be the starting goalkeeper, but we'll have to see. And they're rumored with every single person, it feels like, directly or indirectly this offseason. I mean, they had Celso, The midfielder from Betis, they're rumored to sign, came out today. There's so many rumors that they have been tied with, players they've been tied with, and they have to have a big offseason. And Jorge Mas said this after the MLS Cup. He said, our goal next is not to be idle, not to be content. We're going for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And it feels like that's exactly what they're doing right now. They are trying to improve this roster to make that run for the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And they're linked with everybody, right? Javier Mascherano was a coach that really I was very skeptical of for most of the season, but he proved he could win MLS Cup. He performed when it mattered most. Lionel Messi, obviously best player of all time. He has high aspirations. He doesn't want to just win MLS Cup. He's trying to win the Champions Cup of the region. Now, is he going to lose sleep if he doesn't? Probably not. But I mean, like they're chasing history here. They're trying to win as many trophies as they possibly can. And they've got to fix their depth, and they've got to get better players who can help out rather than just one or two or relying on Messi. So their offseason's huge, and they are having a big offseason. They've been the most active team in Major League Soccer in 2026. I almost call it 2026 because it's 2026 offseason, right? It's leading up into the 2026 season. They've had the most active season of off season of any team in MLS so far. I'm going to be curious to see who else they add because they technically have a DP spot open as well. Are they going to sign a DP striker? Are they going to wait until the summertime and see if they can attract Griezmann or Koke or someone else? I don't know. I don't know what their plans are with that DP spot. I don't know if Celso is going to be a DP from Betis. You know, Messi and Rodrigo de Paul's DP or excuse me, Argentine teammate. We'll have to see what they do, but they're spending and they're willing to do what it takes to win to win the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that's what you like to see. So we'll see. They're being rumored to everybody. We'll see who they sign. I don't know who you guys expect them to sign or want them to sign. It's almost hard to keep up with at this point. There's also Facundo Mura, who is possibly going to River Plate. Oh, also, and Tadio Yende, what about him? He had 9 goals in the playoffs. They're going to have to replace him. That's a lot of goals to replace in a playoff stretch. You know, he's an important piece at this point for this team, and they're going to have to try to replace him because it doesn't look like he's going to be back unless they want to make him a DP. So this is going to be a very exciting offseason. Hell, it already is an exciting offseason. I'm entertained. Hopefully you guys are entertained and you're enjoying this. What teams do you think should be on the list? Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Who is the number one team you guys should think or do think should have the biggest MLS offseason in order to compete or win all the trophies in 2026? Let me know down below. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 12,000 by the end of this year. And hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon. And Merry Christmas. See ya.